I'm Cassandra Hearn, a top divorce litigator in California. I have a passion for educating you through your own divorce process. I've taken the toughest of divorce cases to trial, including everything from divorces worth millions of dollars to serious child abuse cases to cases where spouses have turned to wage war against each other. Over the past 15 years of litigation experience, I have seen all of the highs and lows that come with making your way through a divorce. I created this podcast to help you gain insight and get into the right mindset so you can do a divorce by yourself and to help you make all the right decisions along the way. Whether you're just thinking about divorce or are right in the middle of one, if you're looking for information, tools, inspiration, and a community to help you through it, you're in the right place. Welcome to the podcast, where I will be sharing with you all of my divorce secrets. How much does the divorce really cost you? We're not talking about dollars and cents today. Today, we are talking about the intangibles. For the last few weeks during our podcast and our blog series, we've spent each week breaking down all of the variety of costs that are financially associated with going through a divorce. We talked about everything from your expected court costs to how attorney's fees can really sneak up and get you, and expected costs for doubling the expenses for two households instead of one. Today, I want to focus our attention on something that isn't spoken about quite as frequently, but is just as important. We're talking about those costs that don't come out of your wallet necessarily. They come from within. And those costs include everything from considering the emotional toll that a divorce can have on you, to the emotional challenges a divorce can have on your children, and ultimately how these financial considerations overall will impact your future and your plans for yourself as you look down the road. So these intangible or difficult to pin down costs still exist, and they're out there looming in every single case. Let's start first with the emotional toll on you, the person going through the divorce. A divorce, as you can expect, or as you may already know, is an emotionally challenged process. You're going to have a variety of feelings as you go through the case. Common feelings include everything from anger, guilt, frustration, and even relief at certain points in time or overall. But the emotional toll that a divorce can have on any individual can vary in intensity, and it can vary as to time frame. You may feel nothing at first, or you may feel an awful lot. But how do you address the expense or the cost of dealing with an emotional toll in your divorce? First and foremost, the best resource to turn to is professional help and guidance. And I don't mean speaking with an attorney. I mean speaking with someone who is an individual trained in dealing specifically with the emotions of an impending divorce or a divorce that's already begun. Resources typically include dealing with either a couples therapist or an individual therapist who focuses their practice on divorce and guiding a person through the divorce process. In addition to seeking professional individual care or couples care, you can also seek group support. There are plenty of groups out there that are specifically designed to help individuals just like you going through this process, where you can share feedback, share ideas, thoughts, and feelings, and gather strength in numbers. Don't forget to practice self-care too. You don't have to look outside yourself to get yourself through the majority of the issues and the feelings that will arise as you go through your divorce. Allow yourself freedom. Allow yourself to feel the different feelings that will come to you during this process, and figure out for yourself what is the most effective way for you to manage these feelings and work through them as you go through this process. It's not necessarily going to be easy, but let's be honest, there isn't much about divorce that is easy. It's a difficult process through and through, even in the most amicable of cases. So give yourself that leeway. Forgive yourself when things get tough, or if you're disappointed with your own self and how you've managed things. It's okay. There is a brighter tomorrow, and you have permission and freedom to move forward. Now, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about how the cost can affect children in a divorce, too. Children will be emotionally affected by your decision or your spouse's decision to divorce. Children are extremely perceptive, and they know long before the divorce is coming that something is coming, even if they don't know that it's necessarily going to be the legal process of divorce. So, children are going to pay an emotional toll just like you will. And the way that they are going to experience going through a divorce is very different than what an adult who's in charge is going to feel. They may feel feelings of helplessness. They may feel out of control. They may feel confusion or surprise. And the one thing that children truly need the most during this process is going to be stability and continuity or consistency. The more stable and consistent you can make their environment during this process, the better. What kinds of tools can help children through this process? Well, the biggest one is going to actually be co parenting as effectively as you can during this process. The smoother you can make the transitions between the one household that your children were used to and the two households that they're now going to have to go in between, the better. And more focusing on co parenting amicably and effectively with your soon to be ex, the more your children will be able to restabilize and get themselves back to their new sense of what their family will look like. Children may also need the assistance of a professional. There are therapists who are specifically trained and focus their practice on assisting children through the difficulties of a divorce and separating their lives from one home into two. These therapists can also help children effectively find their voice so that your children feel comfortable in speaking up and saying what they need. In this regard, these tools can help a child or children throughout the divorce process and even afterwards as they continue to grow and their needs change over time. Now, when we started this podcast, I explained to you that this was not going to be about dollars and cents. But there is still an extra cost that you should think about when you say, what is my divorce going to cost me? And that is the long term, unknown financial scenario that you will then find yourself in after the divorce is over. So, what kind of tools or tips should you consider now as you're looking forward to what the ultimate cost of your divorce will be? Well, the first and best suggestion I can make to you is start financially planning now. Even if you're at the very beginning of your divorce or in the midst of the throes of figuring out what's going on in your case, you must plan and look to your future for after the divorce is over and start to envision and plan for what your finances will look like after the divorce is done. You may be wondering, how can I predict the future? I don't know. Well, part of a divorce is separating your finances, but it's also planning for your future so that when you're done with your divorce, you have a path forward that you can follow and that you can sustain yourself with. How are you going to figure that out? Well, it's never too soon to engage the services of a professional financial planner. And guess what? Just like the therapists that I've mentioned earlier, there are financial planners who specifically practice in assisting individuals through divorce and planning for their finances with their life post divorce. Enroll with a financial planner now so that you can start to look forward and figure out what it is you need to thrive and succeed after your divorce is done. Additionally, engage yourself now in your divorce process to get yourself to a level of understanding about what your financial assets and debts are in this current stage so that you can look forward and expect to know what your assets and debts will be after this divorce stage is over. Now, when we're contemplating the costs you pay to go through a divorce, we've talked about the emotional toll on yourself, the emotional toll on your children, and the work you need to do now to start financially preparing yourself for the future. But what else is out there? Well, one thing you can consider is the resources that are already around you. Consider reaching out not just to therapists and professionals, but also your closest family members and friends that you trust to uplift you during this process. You don't want someone who's just going to aggravate the situation, instigate further conflict, or take sides with you necessarily. You'll want to turn to those friends and family members that you trust who are going to uplift you and give you the support and the love that you will crave and that you will need during this difficult process. In addition to reaching out to those close circle friends and family members, remember too that a big part of getting through this process is educating yourself. Devote time to doing online research, devote time to learning about the process, and utilize the tools that are accessible to you, like Divorce Secrets, where you can find a variety of tools and assets available to teach you and guide you through this process. This will help minimize all of those other tolls that are going to be on you as you go through this divorce process. Finally, keep in mind that while the divorce itself can be an expensive process, money is going to be spent on motion fees, court fees, and all kinds of things that will pop up that you were not necessarily expecting. You'll also spend money on the cost of dividing one household into two. But remember, you can be proactive and you can keep in mind all of these costs across the board, from the dollars and the cents that are leaving your pocket to the emotional expenses and that future looking financial planning as you move forward through this process. Remember, you're not alone. We're here to help, and so are all of those loved ones around you. Tune in next time where we'll be talking about the first steps that you need to take towards divorce.